What's up, everybody? I'm Peter. I'm from Vader, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan. Stay in tune.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard MetalFan Interviews. This is episode number 98, and today's guest, we're talking to Peter from the almighty Vader. Vader's, of course, a lot of you are aware, are a death metal band from Poland, been around since the mid-80s. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into metal, as well as the history of Vader. So, without further ado, let's go talk to Peter.
So what's up, guys? I am here with the almighty Peter from Vader. How you doing today, man?
That's pretty good, thank you. Just, winter, so some technical issues with this connection.
I know. We were supposed to do it on Zoom, but then there was some shit, and then I tried Skype, but then I had a little bit of issues, but now we finally got things up and running.
It's not the Zoom problem. Problem is the connection in the place I live here. So whatever. Good we can talk, good we can see each other. So at least like we may start the chat. Right?
Yeah, totally. So basically this format is I want to do down of your catalog. Let's talk about like your journey as an artist from where you start now. But I'm always curious before we go into that. What are the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to start playing guitar and sing?
Playing that came a bit later. I think that came after I was already a huge Judas Priest and Saxon fan and all these like 80s metal, because I started before with Black Sabbath, but that was before I started to play guitar. It was before I started to sing, far before that. So I think a Priest and all this new wave of British heavy metal, the metal from early 80s, that was the beginning and motivation to me, an impulse to not just listen, also to create, to play. And it came together with joining and starting the Vader back in 1980. So that was. I started in the beginning 80s, but as I mentioned, Sabbath, all these like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, these bands like Infected, we made some hard rock metal sound, and I became a metal fan. But since I heard that "Riding in the Wind" song in the radio in Poland, I started just to dig in and to find more about, which was not easy in Poland back then, to find any news and new music, because like actually the only source was the radio, and of course in the radio metal was not like popular, and the black market. I mean, trading, buying some vinyls and 90% of all music I had was a tape recording, and this kind of stuff, from the radio, from friends, in the whole Poland. So that was the beginning to me. But as I started, Priest was the main reason why I started to play guitar, and the main reason why I started to be a band member, and why we started a band at all,
Yeah, and I know next year is going to be like the 40-year anniversary of the formation of Vader, which is crazy. Do you think this band would have been around 40 years?
No way, man. When we started, we just had fun. We wanted to do some music, to spend good time. Poland, beginning of the 80s, was not like nice place to live for teenagers, So we are like trying to find a good place for us. To have some fun, to be kind of elite. So we created something which was brand new in Poland, metalheads, the society, brotherhood. That was different. That was something new. And we like far from politics. We kept far from the politics. And we also like focus on something which was scary for the regular citizens, the hell devils, the like fast music, dirty music, that was something we loved, and something we wanted to create as well. But as I said, like the beginning of Vader was just to have fun, to jam together, to first to do some covers, then like to do some the new songs, to create some songs, and then after we get some local club shows, so we thought, yeah, why not? Maybe we can try. But of course, it was just the dream was to play on a big stage, just to make a regular show and good equipment for people, for fans, that was enough to be happy. It came later, of course. We had to wait for such kind of shows.
Right.
And the first one was in '86, and it was the Metal Mania Festival, the first edition in the south of Poland. And we're like there was elimination. So, and we set a tape recorded just in our rehearsal room, and we added some flyers to that. We made some session with all the spikes and leather, funny looking all today, but that was crazy back then. And they accepted that, and we invited to this first metal festival, which was wow. Back then it was like almost not possible. We had 20 or 25 minutes. I don't remember that that good. But the response was pretty good. There was like 4,000 people. Response was pretty good, and that was actually the real beginning. That was the first time Vader was, performing not just in the local area, more like country area, in Poland, and that was a real start, I think.
Awesome. And tell me about like those first couple demos, Necrolist and Morbid Reich, which of course is I have on this compilation, Reborn to Chaos. Was that like demos to help promote the band and try to get attention to labels?
That came like so much later. As it's like Necrolist, which we call the first demo, and was released in '89. So that was, and the Morbid Reich, the demo that gave us the contract with Earache Records, and then the first album came out in '92. So as you see, it took a decade since the band started to exist till released the first record. But that was realities, the Polish realities back then. That was totally different. And even after we got the deal with Earache Records, which was like more than we expected, Earache in '90s was probably the most wanted record label for each like extreme metal band. Just let's mention some name, like Voltrower, Entombed, Morbid Angel, Carcass, it's like so many, and Napalm Death, of course, they started with this actually. So that was a symbol of extremity. And Vader, wow, like among these names, that was big deal. And then, of course, Earache gave us something we wanted, the first real good tour, the professional tour, in Europe with Bull Trout Grave, and then in US with Deicide and Suffocation and Dismember. And that was, I think, something...
Hell of a bill.
Big. It was like '93, so that was the first time we ever, stepped on American soil. And the first time the fans could see a young band from Poland, alive,
And were you like nervous coming to America?
Beginning.
Were you like nervous?
Nervous? Nah. We wanted that, so why nervous? No nervous, not at all. But it was, of course, like not with no problems, with no equipment, everything was a problem, actually. But we are happy that we can do it, I don't think any other Polish band, and I'm talking not about a metal band, that was just a new structure in Poland, but at all the bands, had any chance just to perform at the regular tour in Poland. Some Polish bands, they were playing in like Chicago, New York for Polish Society, and some Polonia clubs, but that's different. It's like we had a chance to perform for all Americans, and Canadians, like including Canada. So we made like twice trip around to the US with Deicide, then with Suffocation, with great albums, and
Yeah.
Didn't want more. We couldn't ask for more. So that was really, really, really good experience, for us. And the first step, to have new friends, then fans in US.
Yeah.
And then
And I know this year
40 years. Look at that.
Yeah, because I know this year is also the 30-year anniversary of the debut Vader album, the Ultimate
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Incantation. And
The
what I want to
new
ask
Vader
is
album,
like two thoughts. Like, what was like the thought process making the Ultimate Incantation? And is there a possibility we can get a celebration of that album somehow? Maybe throw in some deep cuts on because I know you're doing that Crisian tour next year, and I'm looking forward to that.
Man, me too. So like it took time, but all the pandemic time, that was a problem not just for Vader, and I think everybody suffered that. And we're supposed to have a good tour at the beginning of 2021, but just because pandemia, so we had to postpone it. And here it is. Like, it took time, but finally we're here.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for that. But Ultimate Incantation, of course, like everything else, the debut album was not. The birth was filled with problems as well. Not too many people knows, but the first attempt to record the album was in Sweden, in Soundlight Studios with Tom Skogberg. It's the same. It's the same producer who produced the great, Swedish bands, albums like Entombed, Dismember. For us, it was kind of unfortunate because we had a great drummer, and when we arrived at the studio, there was no place and no chance to record on the regular drum kit. They had this kind of electronic things. And we did it, and but the sound was absolutely not satisfactory, and so we like begging Eric just to make it again. And I'm so glad that they gave us that chance. It was quick, of course, but we made the next session in summer 1992 in England, and that was the album, from the Ultimate Incantation. And but as I said, the first attempt was in Sweden, sounded different, sounded more like flat, and and so I'm happy that we had that chance just to record it in a proper way with a regular drum kit. And drums is a machine. Drums is a backbone of each metal band, and
keeps the
especially
beat.
for Vader, we had a real great drummer, and to show him his potential, the only chance was to give him the normal instrument, not something like fucking funny, electronic like pads or shit, like it didn't sound properly, not for this music. We are too fast, too intense, and and you can hear it. You could hear it, for that. That's why we gave up with that. And, it's just so, November 1992, that was the debut of the Ultimate Incantation. And in Japan, I think it was the beginning of 93, if I remember good. Maybe not, whatever. But it's 30 years since the debut album was out. And that's why on the upcoming tour, we want to bring back a little bit from that album. Not just that, because we did it before, like 5 or 10 years ago in US.
Yeah,
we even had we had a special performance in the Death Fest, and we played the Ultimate Incantation as a whole since the beginning to the end, and that was absolutely crazy response for that, and wow. Really, really good. And so it's not going to be as a whole, but we're definitely going to remind some not too often played songs from this album. But I think fans should be more glad with the other album we're going to bring back, after 20 years since it was released. I'm not talking about Revelations. That was different album. That was the album which was out in the new millennium, and it was different even for us. So many things decided about why the album was different, you know. And but actually, we never ever had a chance to perform so many songs from this album. Usually, we played like maximum 3. And the opening track, and the crooning track, and on this trip we want to play for the first time, you know, ever, you know, and there's some other titles like, you know, Wolf Tribe, let's say, like When Darkness Calls, or The Code. These songs. So we started to work with them a month ago, and actually for the first time we performed them on this the special the Polish tour we just finished in a club, and the response was so great. So we just decided just to show that more wide, you know, not just in some clubs in Poland, especially after, you know, some fans in the world that they knew about this idea, so they really wanted to hear it. So we want to make the American tour same special. So the ultimate revelation, and of course some combination of songs from the other albums, many albums we recorded in the meantime. You know.
Yeah, and then going into '94, you released the Sothis EP. Whenever a band releases an EP, I almost kind of like use a video game reference, a side quest. Was that like something? Was like the Sothis EP like a preview before you started working on De Profundis?
You know, we're not ready to record the second album yet, but after we left Eric, the problem was we could not cooperate with the company properly, because being in Poland, it's really hard to explain that. But try to imagine to work with the band who cannot speak properly English yet, who cannot, you know, you don't have any contact with the band, because like no one of us had even a regular phone. So if I wanted to call somebody, I had to go to the hotel nearby and just like to put the fucking coins in the call, you know. So imagine like 20 interviews like with the US or Germany or wherever, like hanging up in the hotel on the fucking phone, you know. I'm not even trying to think about how much money I would pay for that, because that international calling, forget, you know, back then. So there was no internet, there was no mobile phones yet, you know, that was still in plans in the Poland.
Yeah.
And, you know, the passport just to travel to arrange something like a meeting, you know, like no possible. You know, it's really hard to explain how much time we spend like in the offices to have a passport just to go on a first tour. That's really a problem, you know. And, you know, actually the ERIC just gave up because they didn't know how to promote the band, you know. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And
Man,
we knew
hard.
about it years after that, you know, so the DB just mentioned that when the Jarek Stubricht was talking to him for writing the official book about Vader, which is called Total War, and this is the whole full story of Vader, and it's almost 9 years ago it went out in Poland, so we're working on the English edition as well, so maybe you will know what I'm talking about now. But
yeah, totally.
all in all, that was a problem, and we still wanted just to go on. So Sothis was something fresh, you know. It was not the ultimate incantation was still for us a combination of a little bit of new songs and a little bit of collection of old songs we did in the past, and just put together with the new, just to have the proper set for the full-length album. But Sothis was fully new. It was absolutely new things. And we recorded this in a new studio, which and for us, for the band, was kind of try. You know, we checked the studio with mini album before we wanted to record the full length album. We did. De Profundis was recorded in with Modern Sound Studios, exactly that one, and a year after. And nobody knew that this is gonna be so huge, so strong album for Vader.
Yeah. Did you feel like pressure to follow up Ultimate Incantation?
The response was not that good, back then, and I don't know why, because 10 years after De Profundis was out, it became like a milestone for Vader, and not just for Vader. It was just so good response, like around the world. So nice.
Yeah.
And if I remember how much problems we had, back then in those days, so we're so glad that we could record so good album in so bad times. So hard times. It was not bad times, maybe definitely hard times for Vader, for band.
Yeah. Totally, and I still think it's a great album. But then going into Black to the Blind, what was that like? Following up De Profundis, like you said, it was like a big album for you guys. And I heard that album was also like nominated for an award.
No, Black to the Blind was the next step, but we changed totally everything. And first, we came back to our home city, Austin, the little studio. Because we knew these guys, we had the studio fully opened, and De Profundis in the Modern Sound studio, so we had to share the studio with other bands who were working at the same time. We were recording in the day, the other band was recording in the night. We were recording in the night, the other band were recording in the day. So that was a mess, and after each day we had the party. So that was hard. Salties and De Profundis, that was really, really, really crazy rock and roll days, and it's really sometimes I'm thinking like, how could it happen that we were able to record this album and that good album? It's unbelievable. And also in Black to the Blind, so we had a little bit more time and it was not that stressy. And we changed the sound formula a little bit. The album is more dark. It's not just Black to the Blind, not just dark title. The whole album, the sound, everything was dark, and Doc, our drummer, you can feel his progress on the album, and even if it doesn't sound that hard and sharp like De Profundis was, it's super interesting, and many fans really, really like the album. And we created some mega hits from like Carnal. Carnal is like a must every night we play, and if we do not play Carnal, people are very disappointed. So
it's like your master.
This is really short. It's like 2 minutes. It's like a 2-minute song which was created in 2 minutes in the studio, just like that. Which it was like impression.
Wow.
Trust me, and nobody ever expected that this will be so huge. Like wow, huge like heat. In the Vader discography, and so another surprise, in our history.
Yeah.
Carnal, damn.
Yeah. And then I know you had one song from that album called Anamnesis, but then it was never made it. But then of course, then it ended up on the Kingdom EP. I love this EP. Was that something to hold people over before we get into Litany?
We were recording many EPs and mini albums back then, actually. Yeah. If we're not ready for a full-length album, we were still ready like to do some like a EP or like mini album, live album. It became not that popular later on, and the record companies were not that open, to release the small titles, small albums. They were like still pretty ready to release the next full-length album, but I don't know why. Sometimes this is just like a next step. It's easier to record like 3 or 4 songs instead of 10 songs. And usually if you have a time to record like 10 songs, you get more time to work with the songs, and they're not like some songs which are like made just to have proper number of songs, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
I liked the EPs. I like the EPs. I like the mini albums, and I'm glad that lately Nuclear Blast they are back, you know, and they're not against that, you know. So even we plan to release the EP album next year, because we are not ready to record like full-length album next year. We want to like have more time to work with the new songs, and to give a little bit more time for our new drummer to, you know, to familiarize with the band and with everything. And you know, besides, we have all these anniversaries, you know, Black to the Blind. Now we have like 40 anniversary, and you know, so this is too many, and we don't want to like fuck it up, you know. It's like we still want to use it and like to give something for fans, not push ourselves. You know, this is, you know, we got enough good songs, and so many of them were never played, so we still can surprise, you know, fans, and to do something. Even surprise ourselves, you know, with some songs we never played before. It's nice feeling if you have to learn the songs you already forgot years ago, you know? And these songs are still yours, you know. It's funny. Okay, so
and I think you.
Kingdom was experiment. Kingdom was kind of experiment. Many fans did not really understand this, because all these remixes, actually, this is not a Vader. Like I know remixes were pretty popular back then, in the middle of at the end of '90s. But actually, the company in Poland, they were releasing Black to the Blind, then Kingdom, and they asking us if we can do something like that, something different, you know. So we still had some new songs like Creatures of Light and Darkness, Kingdom, which is like kind of different compared to the other Vader songs. And they just added something which, in my opinion, is totally different, because this is not Vader. Vader was a motivation, inspiration to do some remixes. So actually, some original Vader tracks from the studio were used to make some totally new songs by somebody totally different, and that's the main idea of remixes. And some fans, they were scared. Like they thought that we're gonna do something like that. No, Vader is metal, and we'll be metal, and we never actually did something like that, you know. So I'm not against the remixes, but I would never sign this. I would never do that. First, I'm not that good in doing remixes. Second, Vader is for making the metal. If somebody want to use tracks, sounds, guitar, whatever, to make his own vision of Vader in different music, voila, this is just an art, you know. This is free will, but definitely this is Vader was just inspiration for these remixes, not a creator of those.
Yeah, and I notice one thing I love about you guys is, like, I think, in my opinion, you're like the most consistent band in death metal in terms of like the releases, because I know in 2000 you released Litany, which is a great album, and also that year you also did the Ring Forever World EP, which had like a bunch of covers and live stuff. So I think you guys are really consistent. You just have like music just coming out just really fast.
You know what? Some lovers, some haters for that, you know, and I think each band should to do what he does best, you know. And I feel Vader creates and plays extreme metal best, you know. And we don't really need to show everybody that we're able to do something else, or to look around to be more artists, you know, with creation something totally different. Maybe we could, maybe not, but I was never looking for that. Metal is so wide in the moment, so we have our own style, our own part, and we just evolve in this part, if you know what I mean. And there's so many bands who play, you know, look around and try to compare the metal scene today with the metal in 90s. And so many bands playing metal today wouldn't be even called metal. in 80s or 90s, that's different. So if somebody's looking for a band that played different from album to album, okay, look around. But Vader, no, we're not looking for that. We're not the band who want to satisfy 100% of metalheads around. This is not possible. That'd be stupid. So we play for those who like the music we do and who like the music we create. That's easy. I'm a fan of metal, and it's same from my side, and I got my bands, I really love. And if the bands change, I still stay with what I like, I don't curse them because we did something different, but I stay with all I like, I'm not just, push myself to like it just because I'm a fan of band. No, music, this is so easy, it's really, but, to be open-minded, or just like people think that if you like more than this, you're more open-minded. I don't need to be open-minded. I need to be happy with the music I do and I hear. And that's
exactly,
I need to feel fun from that. I started to play music. I started to listen to the music because I had fun. I started to play music because I had fun in that. And that's all about it. That's so easy, really.
And then moving on, I know we're like halfway there. We still have a lot, but of course we talk about Revelations. I know this year is also the 20-year anniversary of that. So what was the thought process going into that? And I heard originally this album was going to be called Epitaph.
Yes. And you know what? That was a huge change. And I mentioned that before. Litany was the album that was the last album in the last century, 20th century. And actually, that was the fastest, the most crazy, and the most blasting album. It's even barely maybe it's too much, but I sometimes call this like a death grind band, like that, the music, because if you listen to this, it's really, really grindy. It's no mercy. And with the new millennium, so many things happen, and September 11, that was the main idea why I changed the title, why I actually extended, the release date for almost a year, because I totally changed my mind. The album supposed to be a bit different, maybe close to the Litany, but then I found that we can't just make that race in speed all the time. Because there are still bands who can play faster because they like to play just fast to fast. Speed is a very important factor in Vader's music, but it's just a factor, not everything. And we're never going to give up with the speed. You can see that every live show, but we wanted to give something more to make the show, because creating new songs, I always see them in a live set, and to make this interesting, we started to make something totally different. The Epitaph, that was the opening song on the Revelations album. That was a huge shock for many Vader fans. It was so hard, it's so heavy, no fast, and everybody went, wow. But the biggest shock was the last one, the Revelation of Black Moses, because that song was absolutely heavy and slow, and I love this song. I love to play the song, but only when we have at least 90 minutes set, because this is, it takes like 6 or 7 minutes when we play this live, and if you have 1 hour, so this song takes like a 20% of the whole set, so we usually give up with that, and we mostly focus on like the regular Vader songs, was like around 3 minutes, right? But the other songs, those we never played before, they are also kind of different. If you listen to Wiwczarek, if you listen to the Code, you will see some different feelings in construction, and emotional different compared to Litany, especially to the previous album, And that was for Vader. That was also the first step to look around for different feelings, if I can name that, in metal music, in Vader metal music.
Yeah, and I know 2003 you did the Blood EP, which I think it's another, probably of all the EPs, I think this is probably like my favorite one. Was that like something to hold fans over before we go into the Beast?
The Beast was a next step, but I was too far, I think. I wanted to bring back a little bit of my roots, and which was more metal, more heavy metal, more groovy music, and you can find songs that had some vibes never used before in Vader music, And I think that was too much for Vader fans. And of course, there are still people who really love the Beast album, maybe just because everybody else hated it. But
yeah,
but
I fucking love it.
And this is interesting album, but like all other Vader albums, I never judge. So that was just the next step in our history. Each album was recorded in the studio with the same passion. We had some we never had some some expectations, with recording something, because we record what we feel, and then fans decide they like it or not. That's regular. That's normal, right? And the Beast, I think the bigger problem in those days was the bad days in Vader, and we had huge problems with Doc, and his drug addiction was just like too hard, and we still started to have like more and more problems with that, and all these personal problems and different album. It was just too much in those days, and that was very, very weak years for Vader. Very, very many problems, for us, and that's why maybe that's the main reason why I don't like to bring back these albums so often, because I still got in memories those bad days and the problems with one of my best friend, Doc, who died soon after that, So
rest in peace.
Mm-hmm. So that's probably that's why. And that was a huge change. The Beast was, if supposed to be recorded by Doc, but
I
because
heard
many
he
problems
fell through a flight of stairs from what I was doing, or tripped over some stairs or something.
Yeah, that was the first time we were working in a studio with different drummer, with Darek actually. And he was not that yet, he was not feeling that good yet. There was not that much time, in a band to feel good in the studio. He did it well, but if you can compare the Beast and the following, The Art of War, you know what I mean. Art of War was after we spent so much time together on tourings, intense tourings, and been jamming together. So he had enough time just to know what's up in Vader and to show his anger and his really, really huge abilities, as a drummer. And so The Art of War is actually his first album as a real part of Vader, the permanent member of Vader. This session, he was more like a drummer who was doing that job in the studio, but The Art of War, he was a permanent member in Vader, and you can hear it.
Yeah, and then going into impressions in Blood, this is probably like my second or third favorite Vader album. I feel like that's also kind of like another change in the Vader catalog, in my opinion.
It was especially after we added all these samplers, we never used before, and you can hear this on the Art of War EP. But as I mentioned, that was the real beginning with Dare and with the new lineup, actually new man in the band. And the other thing is I gave more space for creation, for work for Mauser and in the studio, and he showed his great, potential as a composer as well, in Impressions in Blood as well. So we can, the songs like The Book or Lead Us, that's absolutely genius songs, and we definitely gonna put songs like Soon on stage after a long time, and samplers. First of all, that changed everything, because we never used samplers as a part of a music, also alive, and that was a new sound in Vader. Yeah, right.
Okay, and then going into Necropolis, the first album on your current label, Nuclear Blast Records. I know there's like a 3-year gap between Impressions of Blood and Necropolis. Did you want to like take your time to work on this album?
Yeah. It was first of all, Dari and Mauser, they gave up and they wanted just to work in their own. Mauser started to work with his project band with his wife, son, and so he said bye. And actually, I lost almost the whole lineup, and I have to rebuild the band from the scratch, and it took time. And that's why Necropolis been also the first step in our great cooperation with Nuclear Blast. And so that was everything was new drummer, new people in the band, new label, new studio. Actually, studio maybe not new, because The Art of War was the first album we recorded in Harris Studios, and so we liked the studio so much, so we stayed there for many years, for the next albums, until Sardonian Madness, actually.
Yeah, and then Welcome to the Morbid Reich. I love this album. One of the best in like the 2010s era of Vader, and I thought especially one of my favorite songs is "Decapitated Saints," which is a re-recorded from the Ultimate Incantation. What made you decide to like redo a song that you did like years ago?
I wanted just to bring back something from the old days, to give that feeling, to compare how the old Vader songs were and how the new Vader songs are. And it was a great opportunity to have that on a one album. Of course, we changed that a little bit, but actually Decapitated Saints is the very, very first song recorded with Doc behind drums, and the opening track on the Necropolis demo tape. So actually that was the very first song we started the Vader everybody knows today. And also, to me, that was a debut. That was the first time I was singing in the studio, and that was the very first songs I composed in English as well. So everything was a first, and that's why the bringing back Decapitated Saints after years was also like a bring back the old days, like for the new generation of Vader fans. Morbid Reich, we already have the next generation of fans who did not know that much about the first recordings and first days of Vader. So that was just a little gift, on the album. It took not much time. That is fast song, quick song, and didn't change everything. Just a little impression. That.
All right, and then Tibby.
Personally, I like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was actually the album that got me into you guys.
Right. And I think it's many fans, they get into Vader Empire after Tibby Digny. Seriously. Because I'm in touch with fans like on Facebook, on all this like social media, and many fans, they started, the first connection, first touch with Vader Empire was Tibby Digny. It's a good one, I think, because this album got everything, from Vader. The blast beats, got the heaviness, got some groovy songs, got all the samples, but also some roughness in on that. So yeah, it's a perfect one to know what's up in Vader, as a band, And after this song, even the first album is not gonna sound totally alien, And that's a good one. And it's a good album because Tibet Igni gave more wind to Vader Wings again, and we stabilized the lineup pretty well, and we get back on a trail with the tourings again, pretty intense touring. And James was a new engine and a new motivation for me as a leader of the band, and for everybody. So that was the start for the next really, really good decade of Vader, Tibet Igni.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Totally. And then moving on to Iron Times, another little EP. And I also love how you did like covers of Motorhead, and of course your old band Panzer X, which, and of course some of those songs, and then the other two songs ended up being on The Empire. And I love this other great album. What was that like going from Tibet Igni to this?
The Empire was a little bit like the Beast in the past, a decade before. So, but a little bit more well done, because the James was flying by then, in the band, and bringing back some different songs, more heavy, more with a more thrashy vibe, feeling. It was a good idea, I think. So we wanted that just to give that different feeling on stage, If you play songs from De Profundis, Black to the Blind, or Litany, and then you play something from The Empire or Tibet Igni, so it makes everything more interesting, so the show sounds not the same, you know what I mean? It's not like a monolith. And trust me, playing death metal so intense like Vader, it's really hard to make the 90-minute show interesting. It's just like we have to give by portions, all this heaviness and blast beats, like with every next 10 minutes, and I love it. I love to listen something like, and like to give the music like that to the fans, And The Empire was a little bit slowed down on the album, but just on the album, because all the rest, just see what came later, Sodium Madness, and the last album, right? That was bringing back the rough and actually the old Vader, again on trail,
Yeah, and I agree. With that. And also, I know in 2017 you did a Dark Age was actually a re-recording of The Ultimate Incantation, because that time was the 25th anniversary. What was the idea to like re-record your debut album?
We didn't want to that, but we had to, because the first idea was to release a special edition of The Ultimate Incantation plus that Swedish session I mentioned before, which was never really released. It's available in YouTube, some single songs from that, so you can hear the difference in the sound. You can hear those fucking electronic pads, something weird. But there was no chance, because Eric absolutely were against that. They keep all the rights, and there's no even chance to buy license or whatever. So trust me, we're trying anything. We're trying to buy, to pay, to make a license or whatever, and there was no chance. It's like all the time the final words were, you can't, because we will send our loyals, something like that. Okay, I don't get it, but I don't need to get it. I wanted to give something for the fans, because that was 25 years since our debut album was released. It was a very important album for us. So the only chance was to record everything from the scratch. Fortunately, we had some some songs from the Ultimate Incantation already recorded on that compilation 25, the special double album recorded for the 25th anniversary of Vader. So we used part of those a little bit remixed in the studio, plus we added something recorded from the scratch, the missing parts of the Ultimate Incantation album songs. We named that Dark Age, which actually was the first idea of the title of the debut album before we changed this to the Ultimate Incantation. And good thing is we still had the chance to use the Dan Seagrave's picture, original Dan Seagrave picture, not original the Ultimate Incantation cover, but very close. He made a special one similar to the original. It's supposed to be a cover for the Swedish session, but all in all, after we could not release this special edition, so we used this for Dark Age re-edition of debut album.
Okay, and then lastly we got the Die Messenger EP, which I think is a great EP. I remember hearing like the re-recording of Litany, and that's great. And of course you covered Judas Priest, and then probably my favorite album, one of my favorite albums of 2020, the Solitude Madness. I love this album, definitely one of my favorites. Being as it's now getting close to almost 3 years. I know you're also started working on the next EP. What's the status with the next new music?
And actually, this is the album we're supposed to play in 2021, and it couldn't happen. Why? Everybody knows. Pandemia.
Yeah.
And Die Messenger was the album we are playing some premiere songs on our last visit in the US and in spring 2020. Very great tour, actually, organized by Continental. And it's good to know that the Continental is going to make another one tour, the upcoming tour for Vader as well. This time we're going to play with Christian and the Crypt Earth. Actually, our old friends, like we had toured together years ago.
Yeah.
And it's good to bring something special. And of course, because we had no chance to play Solitude Madness in a time we wanted, so beside the Augmentation, beside the Revelation songs, we definitely gonna play something from Solitude Madness for the first time live. Definitely, we have to. We want to.
And Solitude Madness is just like an ass beater from beginning to end. I love that. One of my favorite albums from 2020, like I said.
This is the next chance. Actually, we changed the formula to the old one. Like we actually read off the samples. We used so much like before on the previous album, and again we focus more on speed, roughness, and sharpness. And I think that's the best for Vader, because we feel best in this kind of stuff, and I think fans feel best listening to this kind of stuff as well. So
yeah, and kind of like wrapping things up. What does the future hold for Vader? I know I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the Crisian and Decrepit Birth tour. Is just anything else with Vader you'd like to plug?
We just had like a chat with Nuclear Blast the last week, and the next year, because this is 40th anniversary, we're going to focus on this event. And even if it's going to start pretty late, because all these tourings we made before, including Revelations of the Wicked in the US, then Asia, Japan, Australia. So this is actually something we could call a part of 40th anniversary, but that'd be not good, because 40 anniversaries, we're going to make a special event bringing actually the most important trucks from the history That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And after all these tracks we made for Revelation of the Wicked, the special tours in Poland, and we didn't want it just to dump it and to make another set, because like I know that Americans fans gonna love the set list. And first we will bring this, and then probably it's gonna make about a year. So in the same year we will bring the 40th anniversary set, different set again to American soil, and so we make everybody satisfied. And we're gonna start the special events with the 40th anniversary in Poland with the special sets in late August, beginning of September. Then we hit Europe with a huge tour, and then we're gonna start like to extend the 40th anniversary to the rest of the world in 2024 as well. So easy, we will bring the special set as well to US. Now, this is a special set, trust me, and I know that if we wouldn't do that, we would be cursed.
Right. So
because really,
yeah.
trust me, you will love to settle it. We were not gonna play these songs on the 40th anniversary. That's why I didn't want just to dump it. And if you want to visit us on the upcoming tour in US, March, April, you will know what I'm talking about.
Awesome. So everybody, Peter from Vader, we'll see you next time.